Hello and welcome to season 5 of UX Banter, the season of innovation, your gateway to visionary conversations with design pioneers where creativity meets technology. I'm your host Dushyant Kanungo, and in this season we are exploring what's new, exciting and challenging in the world of UX. Together, we'll get into the minds of innovators and pioneers, discovering the secrets to building great user experiences. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new episode of the UX Banter podcast. Our guest today is a highly experienced lead designer and design thinking facilitator with over 20 years of expertise in design and 6 years in leadership. Specializing in UX and product design, he has successfully led digital transformations for renowned clients such as BP, HSBC, and SAP. Known for his inclusive design approach, he excels in user research, prototyping, and fostering collaborative team cultures. Please welcome the founder and design leader of UX Ahead, Santhosh R. Balasubramaniam. Hey, Santhosh, welcome to my podcast finally.
Thanks, Bhushan. I think we are trying to do it for quite a long time, and today is the day. Great to see you here. And yeah, let's banter. And you've given me an elaborate introduction.
So, people who do not know me for a long time, I can tell you this that there is always in life when you are growing as an individual, there's always somebody who comes to at different moments in life. You meet people and mentors and guides who would direct you in the right course of action, and they actually change the path of your career. So, for me, one of my dear mentors or people who actually shown me the right way was Santosh, and I'm eternally grateful for him for being there for me when I didn't even know that I needed it, but he was kind enough to show me the way ahead, and here we are. So Santosh, I would like to start this show by thanking you with all my heart and say that it has been not just a pleasure, but it's even has been the goddess grace that you we met and the conversation started.
Thanks, Dushant. Actually, it's very grateful to see, like, actually, see people grow into their different parts of their careers. I think it gives me enormous happiness, and to see like people when they grow into their role and they achieve a lot of heights. It, if I was part of, if I have changed little bit, or if I've been given little bit of an advice or anything like that, if that has done, I think it gives me very enormous happiness, first of all. And second is, it's not just all about who you are saying, like it's all about who is at the receiving end as well, right? So it's
Absolutely.
not just one-way traffic, isn't it? So it's a conversation, and the conversation should influence, and then there is an action part towards it as well, isn't it? So I'm happy that has happened. There was a big career change, I think, for both of us. I think we met around like 10, 15 years back, back in Vadodara, if I'm right. And
Yeah,
then,
but this is where the catch is that I know what you did after 2010. The last 15 years you have been in UK, and we had this sort of a relationship where mostly everything we converse about the professional parts of our lives.
yeah.
I definitely would like to know that what happened before 2010. I mean, what was the journey when you decided to become a designer? What was that path like? What
Oh.
happened there, and who inspired you, and how did you get here?
Yeah, it's a sort of a story. I would say, like sort of a journey, I would say. So it's all started, I would say, like I had this knack of influence towards art, right, during my school days as well. So I always being that kind of a person who wants to do something different from the crowd, I would say. Like if there was any extracurricular activities, or if there was anyone who was needed to do some bit of any bit of a design or anything related to, and for be it be like creating a say kind of an invitation card in the school or anything like that, then I will be the first person to put my hand up, and I would happily to do it. Right? I happy to see like influence people in any craft that you create. That's my first influence. And then it came towards a certain point, like when the internet is coming up, the computers are coming up, and ended up in, still remember going into a course and learning about computers, like very basic computers. I think in 1997, if I'm right. I think that was the time when Windows was introduced, or maybe like that was the next operating system of Windows came in. And one of my tutor, the first exercise what he gave is to open up a bitmap image and in the Paint Pro, and we asked us to do something, right? So I started creating something, and eventually a lot of the fun part was, say, for example, like doing something on somebody's picture, right? Putting a, for example, like that time, I think it was Aishwarya Rai. She was so famous. And then our friends were over there, like putting a bindi on her face, doing some changes to the facet of it, right? So if you look at that, the way you interacted with the design aspects, that's the thing, like what you learn. For example, a lot of my friends got introduced to Visual Basics. The first thing what they got introduced, isn't it? So I had this mentor at that point of time, one person who was who owned a computer in his house, which is very rarity at that point. And then he was studying this HTML, coming up with websites and all those stuff. The moment I saw him, he actually influenced me a lot. His name is Senthil Kumar. He's settled in US now. So he was teaching me about how we can design, like what is Photoshop and all those things he was talking about. Then immediately the entrepreneurship mindset of mine kicked in. Then I thought, okay, how come we leverage this to create whatever it is required at that point of time for the local businesses? Say it's a one-pager website or different aspects of their designs. It could be like business cards. So it started from that point where my entrepreneurship kicked in, and I was influenced by what they were creating. And then from that point, I started interacting with the actual users, like who is going to consumers, the stakeholders, basically, right? So that's actually started from there. The art of convincing or putting a story to say why you need this or what is their requirement, understanding the requirement, that part of the thing. So that's where it started. Then it got introduced into, after my, I think after my 12th grade, I had a kind of a path, like, okay, what should I take? A lot of my friends who are the natural progression or like a natural path, which we being Indians in the community, like either you go to Bachelor of Engineering, or if you are in the science group, you go to take medicine. And I was in the group of students, like, or in the school, like where everyone, like nearly 80 to 90%, either they took this route or took this route. But I was
Okay.
more passionate about, I was very sure, like I don't want to do something which comes to like engineering or coding or anything like that. I wanted to look at how I can persuade my design, the knack of design I had. So I ended up in doing basic computer science. And after that, I joined diploma in animation technology. So, which is where
Mhm.
it all started, where I learned about the craft of animations, 3D, Max, Maya, you name it, whatever the tool sets there, Adobe Photoshop, all those things. And again, instead of traditionally going into an internship or going into job, I ended up in starting up my own multimedia studio, which is in
Mhm.
2002, which is a very rarity in that part of the world. And especially in that India, I think very few studios were there who were doing Max Maya animation.
People wouldn't
And
even understand what you were actually trying to achieve and do, because half the time the people were questioning that you're okay, you started something, but what does it do even? What are you trying to sell? And the market's
yeah,
nicheness, that
yeah.
has always been the issue.
Yeah. So it's always about, see, a lot of, like, even now, if you take it, the users or the business doesn't know exactly what the other end is required, right? So they know, like, I have this product, I wanted to sell it, right? Whether you don't know,
Mhm.
like, whether is this the product that actually your consumers wanted or your users wanted. So that's something that is always there's a gap which that needs to be filled up. So various professionals or professions came in to fill up that. For example, market research is something that people used to rely upon, or customer research rely upon before that. So if you look at, these are some of the things that they used to rely upon. When it comes to a product which actually users are interacting with, there is nothing at that point of time. So users, it's all about, like, we have, like, okay, can you please tell me your requirement? You just go and
Mhm.
ask the business requirement. You don't ask what's your
People
who are your users, who
the
you are selling
application
to.
development.
Exactly. I started to doing it, asking the questions where then they were like, okay, maybe like why he's asking these type of questions. I need a visiting card. Give me a visiting card. I need a brochure. Give me a brochure. I need a website. You go and design a website. Why you're asking who are my customers are? They were actually afraid to tell that. If I tell my customers who are my customers or who are my customer types, maybe like I'm actually trying to steal their
Will be
um,
stupid for
data.
you. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's the education was required for
Hmm.
anyone. That's what even in big organizations now, we are educating the organizations to come up to the design maturity. And you take it like 22 years back, then the design maturity is very, very low.
I
And
think
at that,
has been the core of all the businesses that have run or followed the traditional routes. I mean, I was going to these schools in 2003 asking them if I can make a website. And the schools were like, "What? Why do we need a website?" And
yeah.
our classes are full, the admissions are full. What are we going to do with a website? And that's how my first venture failed, actually, because it
Yeah.
it was just a cost
So
center for them at that time.
exactly. So there are, see, the services are there. Like we were able to offer a lot of services which were never in the market. And it's about like also to understand, is this market requires this service, right? That is also very important to identify whether this market, whether is, are you in the right market? Are you selling into the right market? That's also
Mm.
important, right? So my studio was going on. I actually then I started my entrepreneurship venture, which was Rate Race Multimedia. That the
Mhm.
studio name was Rate Race Multimedia, and we started. I was one of the founders, and I had a co-founder who was also traveled with as like you. He also traveled long time with me. His
Oh,
name is
with that, was it Arun?
sorry.
Uh,
No, Arun
Co-founder.
actually co-founder. Arun actually joined. He was my student in Rate Race Multimedia. So he joined
Ah,
as a student intern, and then now he's still with me. So we co-founded company later, and
Guys,
yeah,
whoever is listening, if you are confused by the reference, Arun is a designer par excellence. He is a design leader running his own UX design practice called UX India Studios. It's based out of Coimbatore. So just a shout out there. Hi, Arun. So
or
that is, oh, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, so during that part of career, like we were doing a lot of works, like different, you name it, anything interactive CD-ROMs, CBTs, tutorials, anything to do with websites, portals, everything we are doing. And then I got introduced to one of, again, Mr. Senthil Kumar. He actually introduced to something called usability.
Mm.
He was working in Satyam Computers at that point of time as a usability consultant, or I would say like he was a HTML like designer, not usability. And he told like there is something called usability. You need to make your designs usable. So that's when I first time I'm hearing terminology which is usability, which is in 2004. And he actually shared some resources which is at that point in the world, I believe like there were only few resources which actually talks about usability or user experience or anything. That I think user experience came in later, very later, but usability was the term that was referred. And accessibility, there was only few resources, usability.gov and
Which year,
sorry,
which year was it?
2004.
Four, right. Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. So usability.gov, and then for accessibility, there were few resources, and then the equivalent part of in UK, they had some resources where we can actually able to access from at that point of time. And so I poured into internet, studied all about what it is there, what it's all about. I still remember I taking all the printouts and bounding it to this big book. I think more than 1,000 pages. The entire usability.gov thing started learning on myself, and then there came a situation where we wanted to do a project which actually required a usability and accessibility compliance. And it helped me a lot to all the studies and everything, whatever I was doing, helped me a lot to implement that. So during the implementation time, I got really hooked into, okay, how we can make things better or usable. Like that's something which was keep on coming. Okay, you need to make sure whether whatever you are making, produce or creating is usable,
Mm.
accessible, and then how you can actually know what you are creating is what your user needs are. Right? That
Mm.
piece was missing. Like
So
the
an anecdote about those printed documents. So in 2004 and 5, I was working for a company and we were working for the Scottish Department of Education, the government of Scotland. And they also wanted us to, send us resources, bunch of resources that, you need to follow these, this, and that. So I sat down for a week and compiled the entire checklist of things which was needed. And I printed them, and it was again that bound book. I still have it in my old suitcase, just as a relic that, things to follow. And at that time, the thing that they were working on was
yeah,
websites or applications that could run on a PDA device. So it was something mind blowing because first up, it was the handheld Palm Pilot that they gave us. And
yeah,
designing from that screen was like, no idea where to start, where to begin, but just having a go at it was the part of the whole experience. And
yeah.
following all the instructions, they were flowing left, right, and center. And this was 2004, 5. So you can imagine that is, I can
Sounds right
completely
about like, yeah,
that time frame
yeah. Yeah, there were very, very few resources that we can
rely
look
on
into,
that time.
rely on that. And then this topic of usability was very interesting for me. I was so hooked into it. And then I was looking for, fortunately or unfortunately, I would say, at that point of time, my business was not doing that well. Then we have to sell that business. I mean to say, like hand it over to one of my delivery heads or my teacher and also delivery head at that point of time to him. And then I ended up in joining as a Satyam consultant, as a user experience consultant. So between that part and joining into Satyam, I had
Mm.
some nearly 6 months of gap. So luckily, I found at that point of time there was only few institutes in India. One being I think a National Institute of Design. They were offering some design courses, and then HFI, like Human Factors International, they were offering a certification program which was called Certified Usability Analyst Program, and I was one among the top. I mean to say like, I would say like 100 in India or maybe across the world, maybe thousands or anything in that region, to to go and get myself educated about user centered design, and also get myself certified. So that was many of the courses, right? So where you get certification, and certification is something the HRs and the teams are they are looking
We
for.
looked up to, and this is when you were preparing for masters, and that's when we met. And I remember stealing a lot of your templates at that time that you were following or
Yeah, yeah,
got from Fi, and you were the first person that I met who was traditionally educated or certified in design, because till that time anybody who would ask me that what are the web design principles, and
yeah,
even if you Google, you would get an article on about.com at that time, which will just give you a 10 bullet point list, and nothing else was around in the
yeah,
pop culture or the general market where you can just go and access something that was immediately available for consumption.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then you left for UK, then I realized that yes, certificates for HRs is important. Now, anybody who is listening, yes, it's a fact that people would say that UX design does not require any formal education. But the first piece is a degree is essential if you're working in India, because
yeah,
without it, your CV will be blocked by default because it's a company policy. Second thing is that any certificate that you're attaching, make sure that you know the weightage of it, knowing the power of it, and make sure you certainly learned something out of it.
of course.
There are a number of things are available. Doesn't mean the most expensive one is the best, but credentials do matter to get the first sight. Even before the hiring manager looks at your CV, the HR will make sure that your CV is scrutinized before they let you put a foot in the door. And that's what happened with, well, me. When I saw Santhosh, this thing just clicked that, oh man, there are world of possibilities that I can do. And Santosh, that's when you moved to UK, I had no plans of education at that time further. And I thought, no, this has to be me because I really want to learn and I really want to ensure that my knowledge was somewhere in the vicinity of what you have got. And I think
Yeah,
that was the biggest part of inspiration, that you look at a fellow designer and say, no, I want what he got in terms of information and knowledge. And that is why whenever I say that you were the catalyst in the journey that I was on, and again coming back, that is what inspired me to follow in further academically in in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
world of design.
I think, yeah, that's great, Dushant. I think when you say like it's all for HRs, the certificates and all those things, it's all about like what you learn during the journey and how much put. See, for sake of certificate, if you're doing a certificate, that's not going to help, isn't it? So it's you need to be
No.
really passionate about it, and also it's also really how much you are taking in and implementing it, whatever you design. And given said that, it's not about also you can need to put in your flavor. It shouldn't be a kind of a template. Okay, I got a template from this company or this one, I'm just going to blindly follow it, right? So
No.
that's where a lot of designers fail. If you look at they just have template, always they go, okay, irrelevant of any situation, or not knowing about what's the project situation or project ask, something like, okay, I need to follow this because this is how I learn, I want to implement it.
No.
So
Yeah.
then
Each project has its own USPs
adaptation
and
and all those things, yeah.
to define
So that,
processes accordingly.
yeah, yeah. The process can be tweaked accordingly to the situation of the projects and the deliverables, what is needed on those. And I think I still remember we were discussing some process related things while we were in Vadodara and Baroda, isn't it? Or Vadodara, same one and the same.
I don't know how to call it. We call it Baroda, which is
Baroda.
another term.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's when I came back from US at that point, and then I came to Vadodara. I was leading a UX project for New York Stock Exchange. And then I came back to India, and then I started to look at, okay, I need to learn more. I wanted to see what is the next level in this. So then I
And
embarked on the
you just
journey of doing,
came in hurriedly because in January you were in New York, I think, for the stock exchange, and the
yeah,
whole Satyam debacle happened, and you were just
yes.
shipped back home. Man, that must be very tough time for a designer for that
You know,
level of
of course, like
uncertainty in the career.
imagine I was actually leading a project which is called listed company administration
Hmm.
for redesigning this listed company administration application for NYSE, New York Stock Exchange, right?
Huh.
And the team that is doing one of the modules which was done, and they were using a test data. Like they need to one functionality they were testing. Usually they used to do a say like, okay, list Satyam, delist Satyam as a test data they used to do,
Uh,
right? The testing team. And one fine day, our team has to do delist Satyam for real. And it was like so heartbreaking. And we didn't know like what to do. Like on being in the environment of New York Stock Exchange and in that project, and immediately we were, I think, asked to stop coming to the office itself. Like it was so daunting. And I was like gone blank. It was like 11th month in US doing a project, and that was my first experience of an for offshore, like onshore, and we're doing well as a project. It was going okay, and the visibility was so high, and this happened, right? Then I came back to India, and I was looking at okay, what's next? That's when I think I joined Reserve Shaft, right?
Baroda, yeah.
Yeah, I think we were there, and then I was looking at learning more. That's the key, isn't it? Like whenever you want to grow, you learn.
And
And
that's
I was planning to do masters,
hmm.
and masters, only few universities in the world that were offering masters which are related to human computer interaction. And I got into UCL, University College London, and there was, at that point of time, it was one of the top four universities in the world. And to get into that program, it was so hard. You need to get this ILT score and all those things. I
Hmm.
think I wrote an email to the coordinator
Huh.
about, I want to join your program. I don't have much of time, and this is my experience. This is what I did. This is my experience. I put up a nice personal statement, and they were they were happy to consider only my industry experience, and they offered me things. So that then started my journey to UK. So I landed in UK and for my master's in HCI with UCL.
Great. So now moving on with a few questions, rapid fire. All right.
Yeah.
So your studio is in London, a registered entity, your service that you are offering there. So what do you prefer, Chennai or London?
It's a difficult question. I would say like 50-50,
A very
50-50.
diplomatic answer.
If I'm happy to be in escape UK winter,
As
I'm okay.
Chennai.
And then escape the Chennai summer.
Ah,
So
that's the heaven life, isn't it? So football or cricket?
definitely cricket comes first, then follows by football.
British fella, you are. I mean, it's okay. Food that you can cook in the middle of the night.
Anything to do with chicken.
All right. And I remember you once made dosas for me. If you can remember that or not, I can't remember, but I vividly remember you just getting the oil and the batter and cooking the
Yes.
dosa, the authentic dosa at home. And man,
Yes,
that
those
was
I'm very fond of, and I'm actually happy to. Hospitality is something which actually comes very natural to me, like
uh,
cooking. One of the key skills which
and
I.
you had a restaurant in London as well, once upon a time.
Yes, that passion led to me starting food businesses, and I ended up in venturing out to food businesses for a short period, and had my fast food takeaways, and then I had a restaurant like fine diner, and ended up in winning an Southwest England's best Indian restaurant award from
Amazing.
Indian Parliament. So
See, we tangent into
I
the areas which are very, very unknown. Creativity leads in many ways. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
so window or aisle seat?
I used to prefer window
Then
seat, I
you
would say,
married.
in terms of, and but off late aisle for various convenience purpose.
All right, morning or sunsets?
Morning, definitely.
You managed to wake up early? Yeah, yeah, of course. UK life, you don't do corporate offshoring like everybody else who is out there. Okay, and your favorite snack?
Something called, this peanut candy, like kadala mittai, what we call it in Tamil.
Yeah,
It's peanut candy. So that's one of my favorites.
it's very common across India. It's
Yeah, yeah.
generally called chicky.
Chicky,
Uh,
chicky,
peanut
yeah.
everywhere else. Okay, books or movies?
Movies.
Movies, your favorite movie?
It's very tough. I actually criticize the movies a lot. So, and also like I watch a lot of movies, mean to say like different journals. You ask me one favorite, oh my God.
Tamil film. Let's go by that.
Okay, I would say like film called Annamalai, Rajinikanth,
Annamalai.
superstar.
Uh-huh. Thala
That's
always.
not my, yeah.
Okay. Any book that you can recommend to anybody who is listening?
I would recommend one book which is not related to design, but a book called Bounce by
Hmm.
Matthew Syed. And it talks about practice makes perfect. If you follow anything 10,000 times, or any skill or anything that you do, that you will be better at it. Beat anything. Nobody born genius. Nobody has in DNA. That sort of things are nothing. That's the whole concept that he's trying to explain about. It's all about how dedicated you are, what's the vision and the goal you have, and how you're working towards that goal.
Hmm.
If you keep doing something wrong, then that habit goes into it. If you're doing something correct, then that correctness comes in, right? So
Hmm.
that's what that book actually gave me. A lot of things, insights into it, like Bounce. I would recommend anyone to read that, for that
Amazing.
matter.
That's
Any
one of,
skill, anything that you need to mastery,
just go for it.
very inspirational book. One of the
Excellent.
things that had in one point I want to mention here is that one had in say one couple, I don't remember the name, they want to disprove this born genius or genetically people have this skills and all those things, and they went and actually they are like they're going to make like four babies, and two of them they're going to make into a chess grandmasters, and they made it, right? Another
Just
insight it had was
practice.
practice. And I think I remember in that book, like It says about Andrew Agassi, I believe. His dad, like when he was born, they tied tennis balls in entire house whenever on the roof. Whenever he saw, or actually he hit that ball. And that got into
Mhm.
the muscle memory into it, right? So we start the moment
Yeah.
you saw the ball from engage, and it is that's one of the brilliant books I would say for anyone to read.
Oh, amazing recommendation. We'll definitely try that one out. And next and last question is that your favorite YouTube channel?
Off late, I got one favorite which was recommended by my wife, The Diary of the CEO, if I'm right, if I'm
Uh-huh.
spelling the name correct.
Amazing. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It's a it's a fantastic channel to follow. And while we are at the point of following channels, please do like, share, and subscribe to my channel. This UX Banter podcast is on there on YouTube and all the other platforms. So if you are listening to our conversation, please make a point to click on the link which is shown here, and you will be all set. All right,
Yeah,
coming back. So now a bit of a serious discussion that, generally we don't tend to go into that direction, but there is very something specific that I want to learn from you,
yeah.
which is that every single time the discussion happens, that people talk about, do you want to be an in-house designer or do you want to be an agency designer? And to differentiate, it always comes to that either you're working at a startup or you are working as a freelancer. But your journey has been quite different. You always have been an individual contributor. And working as an IC in enterprise environments has been something that not many have explored venturing out into yet. But you have been doing it for better part of the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
So how does that, or last decade and a half, how does that work out? And do you think that people should follow in and on and try to zone in, and what are the essential skills required to do so?
I see the roles, which is called as like individual contributor roles, often requires deep expertise in the domain, especially in your domain, right? So as an
Mhm.
individual contributor, you always need to adapt to wide range of tasks or projects. That is something which is when it comes to challenges, and that challenge is an opportunity for you to learn, and that's an opportunity for you to practice the skill, isn't it? So when I started, I was having a bit of didn't have that understanding of okay, what is IC role, what is required out of me. Then I slowly understood, yes, IC role is something which is very influential role, but without the authority, right? As an IC, you might not have any decision making capabilities or like authority to say like, okay, you need to this is what we need to follow, but you still need to influence the decision makers or drive the collaborations across the team, which is something which I felt very key for designers. What we do as a designer, we try to create something or try to solve a problem. I don't know if a lot of designers actually think in that way as a problem solvers, like instead of just being like a design jockey. But you need to think about like what is the problem that you are solving. This IC role actually gives you that kind of authority for you to say like, so you are not any strings attached to it. So I'm actually not working for that company. I'm not working for that agency. I come in from an outsider and I view it in a very different angle. And I don't have string attached with whether if I say anything, whether my manager will get offended or whether if my team member will get offended. So I actually has that being an IC contributor, you go into a lot of consulting mode rather than waiting for like things to happen. Like you have that kind of an authority. So that is something which actually more it's sometimes it's fun, but it's serious fun. You need to get into that zone. And also I see roles is where you need to really have to be updated because you jump between roles. Very rare you will get an IC role for going more than 6 months or more than 1 year, something like that. You go between the projects, you go between like clients.
And you
So
enjoyed,
yes,
as
I enjoy.
in the overall picture that I'm getting out of this is not an easy job for somebody who has who wants to solve a problem, but this requires a lot of people skills which are essential of this sort of role and engagement. I don't think that, more than your technicalities, I mean, of course, those are the ones who are going to land you the job. But to sustain in this sort of a career, I think the people management becomes the traditional part of the conversation, that, you have to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
be influential enough to
Yeah.
pull things off.
Yeah. See, exactly. Like people influence, and also like you won't be managing any people. For example, you're not going to be an IC contributor. I won't be managing my team, right? And that gives you a lot of time to practice what you wanted to do. You need to be kind of someone who actually you can hone your craft, I would say, in that way. You can actually be a subject matter expert in any field that you are in. Say, for example, like if you look at my domain or industries which I have served, banking, commercial banking for that matter, insurance, supply chain management, my recent client like British Petroleum, or even before that, my clients like Vodafone or Three Mobile. If you look at, I've been into various industries, and it's an opportunity to for you as that's why I keep on saying, like, you need to have that business acumen for you to understand what actually the business is doing. And it is a challenging thing as well, and also like gives kind of a satisfaction as well, like you are actually trying to go into, and also you will be, most of the time you will be an outsider. Like today I'm
This entire process of switching from one IC role to another, there are times in between where people will start doing it. I mean, I have also done my contracting with Dyson, and I've also worked with, well, once upon a time we were both working for Santander in different offices with
yes.
multi capacity. But there is always this time that goes in the middle when you feel really scared. The self-doubt and the matters of, okay, I am unemployed, I have a family, and I'm very senior fella, and I can actually comfortably join any corporate with this much experience, and I'll
Yeah.
just sit and eat. There is hardly anybody who is going to come and tell me that, okay, you haven't filled your timesheet yet.
Yeah, that's the one thing which I, luckily for me, or maybe like due to my engagement so far, what I had, I never been in that situation of like looking for roles to a greater extent. It's always like I do with one. There was a lot of connections which I had, like LinkedIn and collaboration. So that's why it is important for you to be a collaborator or facilitator. So when I go into these roles, I collaborate with a lot of different stakeholders, be it be architects, be it be development leads, or be it be technology stakeholders. So I collaborate with all these stakeholders. Then as a designer, like you're recognized as someone who actually comes in and try to solve the problem, not about someone who actually takes the requirement, go in silo, do the design, and come back, right? So as an IC role, you will have that kind of liberty to say, hey, I think, for example, for this particular project, we need to follow this process, or for this particular problem, I think we need to solve this way. But when you're attached to a company or an organization or an agency, sometimes, not always, sometimes there is a process which is getting dictated by either the agency or the manager who you work under, or something. But here, it's you are, to a greater extent, you are the boss, but still you are working for, you're trying to produce something for someone, but how influential you can be. So that's when the that's when you need to be a person who can actually able to educate your I always say this, like you need to bring everyone in the organization at par to the design maturity level. Once you do that, and that is very easy when you come from an IC, individual contributor, they look forward to, hey, okay, a consultant is here, let's see what he says. There is a little bit of they try to open up on that note, rather than they're not talking to either their manager or their peers for that matter, isn't it? So that is something which actually always helped me and do it. And also like flexibility in the career path. After 22 years of experience, I did one IC contributor role, which the role, the name which said it was, I was a UX designer, right? But what I was doing was nothing to do with UX design. I was setting the strategy for the product journey vision, I was working closely with the product owner and setting the vision and trying to map out the entire strategy for UX and customer experience journey, and planning the research, discovery, and everything. Not even last I designed a screen was, I would say, like maybe five,
No,
six
it's not
years.
just about designing. I mean, we do understand that design leadership comes in many shapes and forms. And
Yeah,
even with much experience that you have, even as an IC, your contribution cannot be judged based on a screen which is out
exactly.
there or Azure, and you are not doing it. You are mainly on the strategy side. Are you not ever tempted that, okay, now I want to be the director of UX or the chief design officer or design principal in some organization?
I've been offered in many of my organization which I was doing consulting. I'm not going to name it, but they always offer, like, after you see prove yourself as an IC, there is always a point that, okay, can you join? But always there was a temptation for me to look into it. But I'm being coming from this entrepreneurial mindset from day one. I always wanted to do something of my own. And also, this gives you kind of some time as well, right? So if I wanted to contribute to the community, I can actually contribute to the community. For example, like, be it putting together some courses, or be it putting together some like some mentorships. And then it like, that comes brings me back me, like, remember me, like, I, because of this IC roles, I got to do with get into a lot of relationship with a lot of agencies in UK, and also a
Right.
lot of practitioners in UK. So then I saw an opportunity to do something in India. In 2012, I did curate the UX Utsav, one of India's first UX design conference of that kind, like 2 day multi-track conference. So you will get to do these type of things. But when you attach to an organization, it's very rare you will get all these sort of things, right?
Mm.
So, and being like, that is something which I take like this. IC roles gives you a bigger canvas for you to play, and also it gives you like a lot of opportunities for you. Like, if I wanted to do some consulting in UAE, I can go and do it now, right? So I can go and look for clients in UAE, for example, right? You can travel the world if you are in the right. Your offering
Uh,
is.
so, Santosh, what would be the right way of choosing a career path for anybody who is starting out now, looks like? Because not everybody can be a people whisperer right from the word get-go. And any youngsters who want to follow the way that you are describing your career path is, what are the advice points that you would give to them?
Off late, I would say, like, I've been mentoring for so long, structured, right? Maybe like thousands numbers I would have done. But off late, recently, I've been doing a lot of mentorship through ADP list, right? Out of 90%, not even 90, I would say like nearly 99% of people who come to get some mentorship, what I see is they're always chasing roles, like chasing, I wanted to be a senior designer, I wanted to be a UX researcher, a senior UX researcher, like how I can tweak my CV. Is my CV is good enough? Is my portfolio is good enough? Right. So this is the request which in most of the times you get it. I think you also would have received a lot of these type of requests. Being yourself a mentor, I think, from long time in the ADP list. And this is something which I would, this is the advice I most of the time I give is like, you don't look for positions. Look for what you can do in that positions. What is the roles and responsibility in that position? Whether does it allow, or it does, it says like, okay, you are required to do user research, you're required to do user testing, you're required to do UX design. Then you know that you can actually do that skills, that you can practice that skills there. Or if you don't know, if you don't have that skill, at least there is an opportunity for you to learn while doing it. It's not like people always don't expect you to come with all these skills, right? It's always there is a learning curve wherever it be. I was talking to one of director level mentorship a couple of days back through
Mm.
ADP. And again, I was saying, like, even when you're going into leadership roles, also, you're not expected to do everything or know everything at the starting point, right? There is a learning curve, and always be open to learn and learn it in a way that's, like, I would say, like, correct learning. Say in cricket, for example, like if you're playing the cover drive or practicing the cover drive for that matter, if you're practicing it rightly, then it goes into your system, right? It will be natural. If you're practicing like your head up like and this, then you'll end up in doing that only. That goes into the system, isn't it? So you need to know it, what is the right way. And how you will know? It's by either you get yourself educated in the right way, or you see if it works for someone. For example, like the way I do research might not be the same way someone does research as well, isn't it? But the fundamental thing of listening to the users while you are doing research is the same. It's not about you are in the mode of talking and asking, right? You need to. So if you look at that, fundamental is the same. So same way, the way I design or I approach the design might be different, but end of the day, the fundamental things will be the same. The
And
whatever that.
it's always
Sorry.
going to stay. And that is why I believe that heuristic, I mean, it was officially published on the website on 1st of Jan 95, but the rules were written much before. And even single day today, even if you're using, say, a virtual reality platform, those rules still apply. And because sometimes the theory parts, the practice part comes into play, and you need to see that how your visioning of the solution has come to fulfillment. I mean, it's the
Yeah,
simplest of the things which are as old as design or computers themselves. They're still applicable for anybody who is working with them.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And also, like, it's important for anyone to understand. So if you don't have that understanding, it's very difficult to survey in the design industry, right? Which is, the design is something which is the easy thing to criticize, right? Very easy
Easy.
thing to criticize, right? Everyone will tell, this is not looking good. This is, I think I would have done differently. Why you use this color? Why the button is here? Why the thing is here? So it's all about, like, you are in that mode of, yes, I'm going to create the experiences, not, and also ready to get, appreciate the positive feedback, equally appreciate the negative feedback as well, right? And then go into that mindset of define,
Criticism is
refine.
of the design and not yours. I think that
Yeah,
is one that designers don't learn very easily or earlier on. Everything is personal because it has come from you, and that detachment is required. It is essential because it is not art. Art is where you are satisfying your creativity. This is
yeah,
design when you're solving somebody else's problem. So the critique is not you. The critique is of whether it is the right fit for the problem that
yeah,
the solution that you're offering.
yeah. That is important. You need to get into that mindset. Mindset is very important for the designers, and that would, I would say, like, you need to get into that mindset of, be in that zone of, okay, I'm actually trying to be a problem solver, and it is not you can't be solving all the problems, right? And then comes that's where comes the collaboration. Like, you need to be collaborative. You need to have that skills of develop that skills of how you can go and collaborate with your team, can collaborate with the different stakeholders. When there is a understanding or conception that, like, stakeholders is someone who is actually owning the project, right?
Mm.
Stakeholders is not owning the project, right? It is the group of stakeholders,
That
not
is where
just
the
one
problem.
stakeholder, right? And always there will be in the room, like, always that one person, like, which we usually call it as a hippo, like highest paid person, and that his voice is always be heard. Like, they will always look at for his voice, because just is being the highest paid person doesn't mean that whatever he's saying is right, or some shouldn't be driven by one person's thing. Same way, the design shouldn't be driven by that one designer. The designer has to seek information from a lot of sources to make sure is that this is what your users are needed, or your business is needed, or is it aligned with both the user goals and the business goals. Then you come up with a solution. I think that requires a lot of skills. It's not just about, Figma, or how to do, like, say, like, user interviews. There's a lot of things that needs to be known. I think a structured way of learning into it might help. I would say, like, to a greater extent, they can accelerate that part of it. There's a lot of avenues, a lot of things that they can do by embarking on, like, keep your eyes and ears open.
So, with that, I would like to thank you, Santosh, for all your valuable contributions and insights toward this conversation. And I would definitely ensure that we meet sooner than we managed the last time. With that, I wish you very good luck for the next endeavors and meeting soon.
Yeah.
And guys, that was our episode for today, this week. The conversation with Santhosh was deep and enlightening. I hope that everybody has enjoyed it. And I will see you guys on the other side when I have the next guest here on our show. So stay tuned, do like, follow, share, subscribe, and do all the things social media ish with this. And see you guys soon.